All right, welcome. Friday morning. It's an early one. For sure. Let's do this. It's Friday. It's basically my kind of weather outside. So why not? Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Yo. Good morning. Hope you guys had a good Thursday. I hope your morning's going great so far. We're gonna talk about Battle Lord, Khalif Battle Lord, Arkansas, UNC Greensboro tonight. We're also gonna talk about Arkansas and just what exactly is on the line for Sam Pittman. What's on the line for him this weekend and from here on out? I know the Pittman stuff is. Listen, it's probably going to be mentioned in every single live between every single live show between now and, I don't know, until it's just incredibly clear that he's going to remain the head coach of the University of Arkansas for the 2024 football season. I'm glad I can get you guys started in the right direction. Let me explain to you really quick why we're doing this a little bit earlier. Fridays are already tough because kids get out of school a little early on Fridays, so I've got to pick them up in the afternoon, early afternoon, like 12:30 is usually when I leave, or around the time between 12:30 and 1. I got to leave here to go pick them up. Friday night, tonight we got basketball at 7. So what good would a 5 p.m. live be at 2 hours before tip-off? Not a whole lot of good. I'm learning that I should know this. As long as I've been doing this, I ought to know better. So I thought about it this morning. You know what? Let's knock this thing out early. We can get on top of it. Sometimes I'm at my absolute best in the morning. Sometimes after I've had my cup of Joe and my lovely Boston Celtics coffee mug that my wife got me when she went up to she was up in that part of the world a couple weekends ago. She was in Salem, and she got to. I told her, I said, if you get any cool Celtics, if you get any interesting merch that I can't find on Amazon, which is, you never know, being that close to Boston. I was like, pick something up for me, and she did. Look at this lovely Celtics mug. All right. Yeah, and by the way, I have thought about an official Tuss Talk with Ty mug. I really have. But until then, this is my new favorite mug. All right, Brady Lewis finally catching a live. It's been a while. Hey, man, nice to have you here, Brady. Thanks for being here. Again, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. I don't expect very many. Honestly, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be surprised if we break 30 people in here for the live. I don't expect a lot. Again, the point is to get something out there for you guys to consume, the content for you to consume, and have the rest of the day to do that. But it does help if you guys like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to do so. Matty Ice, good morning. What's up, man? Good morning. There for a second, I thought Hunter Yurchek retweeted the live show. Oh, wait. Oh, man, that would be crazy cool, wouldn't it? I don't like the Celtics, but that's a sweet mug, bro. You know what else I have that's Boston? I know none of you care. Larry Bird, pop vinyl, baby. Larry Bird. This is all that was on television when I was a kid. That's all you could find on TNT were Celtics games. I had a family member that was a diehard Celtics. Well, I say a diehard Celtics fan. He liked Larry Bird. He liked the Celtics. I just kind of got attached to watching them as a little kid. Stuck with them. Even through the nasty 90s. By hook or by crook, we hop in the Tuss Talk with Ty Live. I appreciate that. I'm retired, so 9 a.m. is good. Nice to have you in here, Richard. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you. I didn't realize the trash talk Larry Bird. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, and he knew he was great. He knew he was great. Some of my favorite content to watch on YouTube, Peyton Hillis highlight videos, Matt Jones highlight videos. I say what you want, but Marcus Monk, actually pretty good player. If you can go find some of his content, he's a pretty good player. It's fun to watch him, someone that size, be that good. I always thought he'd have a really good NFL career. Unfortunately, he didn't. I put the family side of stuff with him and his family, with his brother. But Yeah, but then Larry Bird highlight content is some of my favorite stuff to watch. Don't get me wrong, of course, the big three, Kevin Garnett, The Truth, Rondo, Ray Allen. I mean, how could you not enjoy? I think the NBA was really, I think it peaked right then and there. Of course, you still had Kobe around and LeBron doing his thing. Love him or hate him, he definitely drew eyeballs to the league for sure. We appreciate the content regardless of when it comes out. Hey, I appreciate you, Taylor. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into it, shall we? I'm trying to buy a couple more minutes, get some people in here. We're obviously going to talk about Khalif Battle, who is, I think he's becoming everybody's favorite Razorback. How can you not love this dude? How can you not watch him play? And we saw tidbits of it, right? And my thing is, I want to see a guy do it consistently. One or two, maybe, a couple decent games. But you go back with him, he's got a huge body of work. If you look, I mean, he's been in the league. How long has he been in? I say the league. He's been in college basketball for 5 years. And you can go back and watch some of his stuff. And the more I watched during the offseason, I thought, okay, he's going to be pretty good at Arkansas. I had no idea he'd get off to this kind of a hot start, and he has. And, of course, we're going to talk about him along with some of the other stuff with Razorback basketball. They got a tough one tonight. I'm not going to lie to you. They got a tough one tonight. This is going to be a very interesting matchup for Arkansas. Before we get into the rest of this, shout out to Patreon supporters. Listen, guys, like I said, I don't play ads in the middle of these lives. Someone in Discord told me, Ty, don't worry about that. Get your paper, man. Do it. Throw your lives up. I don't do that for a number of different reasons, but I don't want you guys to be – I don't want this to be interrupted. I want you guys to be able to sit down and enjoy the live content. I know afterwards that's a different story. YouTube will throw on – I think they throw on ads. I don't think I'll tell you right now, they don't pay YouTubers, people who go live, who do long live shows, they don't pay them real well. But Super Chats, Patreon, that sort of stuff is just kind of where it's at, right? And for YouTube, it's certainly the Super Chats that also bolster, that'll help out. So I do not throw ads in the middle of the shows. They'll come either at the beginning or at the very end. So, yeah, no other player in NBA history could do more without the ball than Larry, than when he had the ball, combined with filthy trash talk, could drain the shots from anywhere. Beautiful shot. He could stretch the floor. He could play well around the rim. He was tricky. He was fun, man. He's fun. And I have some memories. I remember his last season in the NBA. That's all the announcers would talk about, how big of a loss. I know like 5% of you probably care about the NBA, but I grew up in a time in Northwest Arkansas when the Razorbacks were really good at basketball. The expectations were Sweet 16, Elite 8, or Final Four every year, very similar to what they are now. So basketball was really, I loved football, but basketball was my favorite sport. I had to have an NBA team, and so I stuck it out with Larry Bird and the Celtics in the early and didn't really understand basketball. I just liked watching the guys in green, right? And then as I got older, I stuck with them, and they just were always my favorite team. There is, however, a picture of me in a Chicago Bull hat my dad found, and he laughed pretty hard because, I told him, I said, where? I don't remember that. And he goes, yeah, I couldn't imagine you in a Bulls hat. I don't know what that's all about. Been a while since we had a true three-point specialist ball out. It's so nice to have a guy with that kind of length. His defense, I think, we've got a little ways to go before we really can dive in on Battle's defense, but yeah, we'll get into him in just a second. Hey, sponsors, shout out to Odd Craft Bar and Pizzeria, located on Emma Street here in Springdale. Yeah, man, fantastic environment, great IPAs, great pies. I recommend. I had the 4-meat. No, I don't do sausage on my pizza, so I had them, so it was really 3-meat. It was really good. If you just want a basic, simple cheese or pepperoni, they got you covered, dude. I've not had a pie there, a pie there that I didn't like. All their stuff is good. And, of course, IPAs on tap. So stop by the Odd Soul Craft Bar and Pizzeria, Emma Street in Springdale. Some of you might be in town this weekend. You're at least here to watch Razorback basketball. I don't know about football. I know people are practically giving their tickets away. So if you want to go to a game this weekend, it's not going to be that hard for you to find it, right? All right. Man, oh man, where do we start? Where do we start? Well, how about while we're on the topic of Khalif Battle, why don't we talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks and just kind of where they're at right now? Battle is your leading points per game right now. He's shooting 62% outside, or 61.5. All right, I kind of like to round up, especially when it's a Razorback. 61.5% outside, 18 points, 3 rebounds, over about 1.3 assists per game, and he's only turning the ball over about once per game. He's shooting 84% from the free throw line. That is, miles ahead of the guys when you talk about who've taken a fair amount of free throw shots. Of course, you've got Jeremiah Davenport, who's 100%. What is he, 2 for 2 at the line? And then Chandler Lawson's 100%, who I think also is like maybe 2 for 2 or 1 for 1. But Khalif Battle, 61%, and he's taking shots outside. It's not as if he's just taking a couple a game. He's certainly, if there's an open look, he's if you give him a little bit of room, a little bit of separation, if it's an uncontested shot or an uncontested look outside, he'll probably try to jack it up and get a 3. And right now he's shooting 61%. Again, 18 points. Like someone said, it's nice to have a perimeter guy that looks like he could score at all 3 levels. And again, if you watch any of his highlights, Battle is him. This guy is good, man. I mean, he's averaged above 16 points per game, I think 3 out of his 4 years as a starter. I mean, he's fantastic. I want to see the other guys step it up a little bit, but I'm going to tell you right now, Mekhi Mitchell, and we'll get to Battle here in just a second. We'll get back to Battle here in just a second. Mekhi Mitchell has made himself arguably one of the most important players on the floor for Arkansas. Musselman kind of touched on it a little bit, talking about the physicality. They're not playing real physical underneath the rim. They're just not, unless it's Mekhi Mitchell. Trevon Brazile, yeah, he's got blocks. That's great. We know he can alter shots. We know Lawson can alter shots. You got a couple other guys that can alter. You got some guards, some perimeter guys that are pretty good at it too, because you could play with a little bit of length. When you look at the 1 through 3, or depending on what you have on the floor, that is. But no one down low. Mekhi Mitchell has made himself. I kind of get this feeling by conference time he's going to be cemented. Hell, he probably already is cemented as the starter. If you're going to go with a true 4 and a true 5 on the floor between him and Trevon Brazile. Of course, Brazile is going to play that forward spot. They're going to need – Bayfall's not going to be the guy. I don't think Bayfall's going to be someone – he's not afraid to put his life – he's not afraid to put his body on the line to go and grab a rebound. But I don't know. Bayfall's got to put on some meat. He's got to put on some meat. He's got to get a little bit more physical before. But Mekhi Mitchell's going to be the guy around the rim, and all of a sudden that makes he's going to have to play smart defense. Can't get into foul trouble. Cannot get 2 fouls early in a game. Like this is going to have to be a guy that you're going to want. It's almost impossible to ask this, especially from a league that likes to drive the lane as much as they all do, but everyone likes to kind of, if they get a lane to shoot through, little dribble ball and then make a move to the rim. This is certainly, the SEC's become more and more of that, and I think it's because college ball and NBA ball has become so guard centric. It's not like it hasn't always been that way. Like, you've always had 3 guards on the floor at the very least, but now you're seeing teams, especially late in games, they're going to go 4 guards. If it's a close game, they want their shooters on the floor. That's going to be your, typically, and Musselman's done this before, you're going to have 4 guards on the floor. Well, you're going to play, if Arkansas decides to play a little small ball in closing time, they're going to want their best free throw shooters on the floor. They want their best pass and shoot guys on the floor. So that puts even more pressure on someone like Mitchell. He can't be going into halftime with, and 2 fouls is probably about what you would expect, but you want to see him stay out of foul trouble. Just play smart ball, because the more you watch, it is very clear that Arkansas might have an issue in certain areas. Rebounding right now, they're not tearing it up, right? This is not a team that's tearing it up on the boards, on the offensive boards at all. They're not getting very many second chance shots. Maybe I looked at that number wrong. Please correct me if I did. Mitchell is just becoming I probably should have put in the title, Mitchell and Battle are it, or Mitchell and Battle and Mitchell, the two most important guys on this team. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Obviously, Chandler Lawson with that long, with those long arms that he has is going to play a pretty big role as well. But again, physicality is something different, and Mitchell has been playing with that. Now, let's get back to Battle and why he is him. This dude right now, again, 18 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. He's shooting 54%. You love this guy's size. He's a tall 6'5", 185 pounds. Again, for anyone who's I know there's a lot of people just now kind of getting into basketball. Because there's people they're just so diehard football, and they're kind of so on basketball only because Musselman's here. Maybe they really didn't pay attention to Mike Anderson, Palfrey, Stan Heath, or they were too young to remember the Nolan years. They're just, maybe basketball's just not really their sport, but they're kind of just now getting into it. Pay attention to number 0 for the Razorbacks. That is Battle. Tremendous player. A lot of people like to compare him to maybe a JD Notte role guy, or that's the role he'll play, is what JD Notte did here. I think he has potential, especially with his length, his ability to score in and outside, 15 feet beyond. He can drive. he could definitely run a lane. He could finish at the rim really well. I don't know what his percentage is at the on layups. It's got to be high. He finishes. And he's acrobatic. I mean, he could just kind of make it all work. He looks – you kind of wonder how the hell did he last as long? Why was he not on a bigger team a year ago, when you really watch his highlights and look at his numbers? Arkansas got a big-time player in Battle, and it's becoming more and more evident. I was all in on Tremont Mark. I still am, but Battle has taken up so much of the show so far. And, so don't ever bet against Battle now it's not to say that he won't have an off night or two. We're about to, the competition's getting stiffer. You're about to play your toughest matchup of the year tonight. This is about to go down. So we'll see what he does. We'll see how everyone responds. We'll see if maybe these guys play a little bit better defensive ball tonight. Maybe they're a little bit more physical. Let's get into the rest of this team. By the way, some other interesting stats on Battle. He's 25th in the country at three-point percentage. He's 8 of 13. Now, that's not a lot of attempts per game compared to some of these other guards that'll shoot 6 attempts outside per game. So you're talking maybe a few less shots outside. But he's shooting 61%. He's top 25 in the country there. That's pretty remarkable. He's 19th in free throw attempts on the year with 25. He's made 21 of them. Again, he is that's where this guy, he's a closer. And again, you talk about someone who's got to play smart defensive ball. You're going to want him in a tight game in the final 3 or 4 minutes of a game, especially in league play, or maybe when you've got this tournament coming up, or when you get ready for Duke. You got to have someone like that on the floor in the final minutes. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. Got to play smarter defensive basketball this year. Not that it's not horrific. We've certainly seen Musselman teams really struggle, playing smart defensive ball. Jordan Walsh comes to mind last year. But they're not horrendous in that department, but definitely want to play a little bit smarter ball, because you do feel like, not from a scoring standpoint, even if Battle, it's a different story, because Arkansas's potential in scorers with their guards is through the roof. I mean, it is, there's a debate about how is this Musselman's best team. I would argue it might be the best on-floor product. I mean, when you look at how good they are already, how well they're playing, yeah, this last game, not their greatest defensive effort, but the offense is there. Arkansas might finally have a team, knock on some wood here, I guess, might finally have a team that has it figured out. Maybe they can be they could stretch the floor with their 3 ball. You know, we're not having to sit here and talk about, man, we really need Pinion to be the guy. We really need Pinion to get into that rotation so he can provide some spark from outside. We really need someone like that. We're not having to do that this year so far. Now, again, the competition's about to get better. Guards are about to get taller, longer from tippy toe to the tip of their middle finger. They're about to get a little bit longer in length. They're going to be bigger, better, more physical. So we'll see how this team responds. But it's not, you know, who they're about to play tonight is going to tell us a little bit more. So again, you're not as concerned about scorers, you know, but Battle is clearly your guy. And that would obviously, he needs to stay healthy and he needs to stay out of foul trouble. I would really like to see Brazil. Brazil is who he is. Okay, he's not going to be known to be a big physical standard five or one of those 90s, early 2000s really physical power forwards. He can be, and he can go get the board or crash the boards. He can make plays around the rim. He's going to get blocks. He's going to rack up. I wouldn't be shocked to see him do it again tonight, have something crazy like 4 or 5 or more blocks. But this team is, you know, another thing we'll talk about too, where they stand in certain stats. You'll be a little bit surprised compared to the rest of the country. So, well, actually, why don't we just segue into that? Notable Razorback basketball numbers right now. Blocks per game. Arkansas is 5th in the country. Yes, I know it's early, but it's cool that this is where they're starting. Through 3 games, 25 blocks. That's 8 blocks right now per game, just a little north of 8 blocks per game. That is insane. That is crazy. Now, there have been some pretty good, you know, Anderson had a couple of teams that were really good at racking up blocks. But it's good to see that, like, they're not only having to rely on just altering shots and getting blocks defensively. They could still block. They could still play. I still believe this team's going to be fine defensively. It's a Musselman team out in the perimeter. I don't think you're going to see as many open looks, hopefully. Bench points in the country. This is one of the better, deeper benches, and we know Battle coming off the bench. 17th in the country, 41 points per game, or just south of 41 points per game from the bench. That is outstanding. Quality depth matters, and it's not always – I mean, yeah, vast majority of it is Battle, but there's certainly some other guys that can come off that bench and provide you with some points. Graham is going to be in that mix. Free throws per game, Arkansas 7th in the country. If I looked at this correctly, it was – it's 7th in the country in attempts per game. They have 97 on the year. Now, that is a pretty good amount at this point in the year. Only, I think, St. Louis and Denver have more. St. Louis has 104. Denver has 102 that I can see on here on my screen. But Arkansas, now this is kind of a mix. This is a good sign. You're getting to the free throw line. You got guys that maybe they're only going to get better at drawing contact fouls, and with the way the rules seem to change every year on these, or every few years, this could be a year that sets up pretty nicely for Arkansas in terms of getting to the free throw line. Right now, they're 7th in the country. Now, the downside of this, they're 277th in the country in actual free throw makes. They're only making 60. They're shooting 63% from the free throw line. I can't tell you guys how much this just drives me insane. Now, I know the more, when you rack up as many attempts, yeah, your number is going to naturally drop because you're going to have more opportunities to make, but you're also going to have as many opportunities to miss. So I understand that, but 277th in the country, whatever, it's early in the year, never mind that. 63% at the free throw line is horrible. This is awful. And this cannot, they got to get better. They've got to get better. Now, Battle, you feel pretty good. He's going to go up to the line. He's probably going to shoot north of 72, 73% at the free throw line. He is a high percentage shooter at the line, at the charity stripe. But other guys, you know, and I understand bigs are always, you know, the bigger they are, the lower the free throw percentage is going to be. I understand that, but we've also seen some guards shoot 60, 40, 50%. That's got to come down. Or it's got to go up, rather. So that is probably, if you want to ask me, another one of my concerns besides physicality inside the paint, it's also their horrific free throw shooting. If they get a little bit more physical down low and they become even better defending the rim, Don't give up as many wide open lanes. Now that's sometimes on the guard, not necessarily or on guard play, not necessarily on the forwards or whoever's going to play the 5. But I mean, that's kind of a team thing, right? But if you could play better around the rim, and if you could shoot better, if you could do better at the free throw line, and listen, their perimeter defense has not been great this year either. Musselman was pissed. Musselman was so angry in that post-game show. Or post-game when he was talking to the media. Wow. Yeah, and it's no surprise. Musselman coach teams, you're right. They weren't very good, but they weren't. I don't remember them even this early in the year last year shooting south of like 66%. I mean, and again, we'll see that number probably hopefully go up. 277th of the country. I don't recall them ever being that low at any point last year, but there's so much basketball left to play. So again, this is just something I want to see get turned around. That's all. The assist to turnover ratio needs to get turned around. And sometimes not having a high volume assist doesn't. When you've got a guy who can get some easy buckets, down low, and you're not having to feed him constantly. Sometimes the assist stuff is a little bit overblown, but turnovers are never overblown. When we look at the minutes on the floor right now, L. Ellis leads the way with 89, Devo with 83, Trevon Brazil with 77, Tremont Marks 69, Battle with 66, Mekhi Mitchell with 50, Jeremiah Davenport with 42, and then a whole bunch of guys under 30, Graham at 29, Chandler Lawson at 24, Pinion at 21. I would love to see Bay fall. I'd love to see Bay fall move into and maybe he will at some point, to just be a guy where maybe you don't expect like against a team that's not super physical, because he shows a lot of heart on the floor, man. He wants those minutes, and with his length and his size, we'll see what he could do offensively. I'm not really worried about that. Defensively, though, I'd love to see him be a guy that could crash the boards, pick up some offensive rebounds, some second chance shots, and be a factor there, even if that means he's only getting 8 minutes on the floor or whatever. They've got to find some guys with some size down low to be, and not that they have a lot of options there, I get it, but they need someone to be a lot more physical other than just Mekhi Mitchell. Again, that's he's just become such a big part of their identity down low, and he's the only guy down low in terms of just being physical and playing that level of ball. Good Irish weather. Yeah. Weren't they pretty bad last year? I already talked about that. Mad Muss equals potentially the best time of the year. Well, listen, when they've had a little bit more time to prepare for this one compared to their last game. So maybe they're able to kind of fix some of the issues defensively, but they certainly had that was not a pretty game defensively. It just wasn't. I expect Battle's numbers falter some in the SEC play because SEC teams are way more physical, but I think that focus on Battle will make open looks for others. Yeah, I agree, Mike. We have so many threats on the floor. Yeah, offensively, and it may not just be with guard play either. It could also be with guys like Graham coming on the floor, coming off the bench, getting you some quality minutes on the offensive end. They certainly have. They have more than enough. Well, I shouldn't say that. We don't really know that yet. We know their potential on offense is really, really high. I think we all know that. We knew this when they hit the portal, that this was probably going to be the case, right? So who they're about to play tonight, they're good. They're solid. This is going to be a tough matchup for Arkansas. There's no doubt that UNC Greensboro, this is a team, potentially a tournament team. Now they're 1-1. Right now they're 1-1. They play in the Southern Conference, teams like Furman, Wofford, Samford, Citadel, Western Carolina, Chattanooga. That's kind of who they're up against. They played Vandy. I watched a little bit of that game. I mean, they at Vanderbilt, they lost this thing 74-70. Now, you guys know how I feel about Vanderbilt and Stackhouse. And I think he's one. Like, if there's a guy that can get more out of their players, I want to know who it is. I mean, when you consider Vanderbilt is not chock full of just tremendous amount of talent, and yet he gets the absolute most out of those guys on the floor. They went in there, and for them, this probably, I don't know if I'd call it an upset or not, but it was a good game. Vanderbilt won by 4 points. I could see this being maybe a back-and-forth game. They have some absolute studs. Greensboro, I think they have like 3 all-conference players. This dude Langley, they've got 2 guys, Langley and Brown Jones, who are averaging right now 19 points. Brown Jones is averaging nearly a double-double. He's turning the ball over a couple times a game, which is a little bit higher than he wants, but he's at 55%. Obviously, he's playing around the rim. He's an 80% free throw shooter, and he's 50% outside. I don't know how many attempts Brown Jones has outside, but Kashawn Langley could be an absolute monster. This is a guy getting 31 minutes a game on the floor, averaging. I mean, this guy's averaging 19 points, close to 5 rebounds, close to 2 assists, 2 steals a game, and he's only turning the ball over 0.5 with a 42% total or percentage shooting overall. They have some pieces here to be to be a problem. And now Kashawn Langley's a little bit smaller, and we've seen Arkansas struggle a little bit with some of these smaller, quicker guards. He's about 6'1", 6'1", somewhere in there. Michael Brown Jones is a key inside guy for them. He's about 6'8", according to ESPN, 6'8", 220. They've got Tim Caesar, who's another 6'9" guy who'll probably get a few minutes possibly tonight. He's getting about 6 points a game with 3 boards. Jalen Breath has about 7 rebounds on the year. He's only, what's his point total? He's averaging about 5 points a game. Breath is another 6'8" guy, so they could play with a little bit of length down low. This will be a very interesting matchup. This is the best game you've played in non-con and as far as regular season. Obviously, your Purdue exhibition is the biggest game that didn't count. Arkansas's played in quite some time. But this game, as far as the games that don't, or the games that matter and that count, this is number one. So, do we have numbers on this game yet? Do we have any so the line right now is in favor of Arkansas by 14.5. Now, I would have guessed about 9 or 10. I'm gonna say I don't know if I would bet on this game, to be honest with you. I think this could be a tough game that maybe Arkansas pulls away with their depth later in the game. They're favored according to the ESPN matchup predictor. According to ESPN analytics, 91%. So obviously Arkansas is a heavy favorite, being at home and being 14th in the country. Blah 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 blah. You know, Lenardi's in on the Hogs, so on and so forth. Has him as a – actually, I haven't looked at his updated – I probably should have done that, actually. I didn't look at his updated where he has Arkansas seeded at, but I'm sure it's probably somewhere maybe 5th overall seed, 4th or 5th. If it's anything lower than that, or higher than that, that's atrocious. This team right now, give me top 3 seed. I'm kidding. Pump your brakes. But, yeah, so this will be a very interesting matchup. The fact that these guys even have close to a 10% chance tonight should probably tell you something, or a little bit anyways. But, again, these kind of numbers and these analytics, it's so early in the year. None of that stuff matters. But they're good. I'll say that. Now, if Arkansas does make this look easy tonight, which could happen, matchups matter, so on and so forth. But if they blow these guys out, wow, that's all I'll say. I'm pretty excited about this one. This was a game early in the when as we got closer and closer to the year. This is a tournament team. They could very well be a tournament team, maybe a 12 or 13 seed, something like that. But going on the road, and we all know Vandy on the road with that head coach and what he's able to do, getting the most out of his guys. That's saying something, man. Only losing by a few points. That coffee's special in the morning. I don't know about you guys, but it hits different. I don't know. Do you guys drink coffee in the afternoon? Sometimes I do. Now I've got a battle with that good old some heartburn and acid reflux if I drink too much coffee, so I got to lay low. Man, I'm someone who, if I know I'm going to be up late, I'm going to drink. I'll probably have me a couple cups of coffee before 5 o'clock tonight, just to stay prepared because we're going to do the post game show tonight. 48 people. Yeah, we need some more likes. Get the likes up. I agree. Vandy lost to Presbyterian, bro. Philip, don't get hung up on early season stuff too much, man. Look at Arkansas's last game. All right, it's not as if pretty good teams lose some head scratchers early in the year all the time. I'm not suggesting Vanderbilt's a tournament team. I'm not saying that, but they're a very well coached team. I want too much coffee, but Lord knows the relationship I have with acid reflux. I'm telling you, man, it's something else. You got to be careful. But then again, that has been Stackhouse's MO by being horrendous in the that's very true. Then waiting until the last few weeks of the season to get red hot. Yeah, he certainly gets better in conference play, and that's for sure. LSU's 1-2. Yeah, that's great. Razorback Rock says we were awful last game. They were. Arkansas is awful. This could happen to anybody. Super chat is open if you guys want to. If you really want your comment read, but I'm on top of it right now. I'm on top of it. I'm doing a pretty good job here trying to keep up with you guys. If we come to play, we should win by 20, says daddy-daughter playlist. I agree. I would also argue if they show up in March, in typical March level, like that team, if they figured things out sooner in the year, where we're not talking about them being a March typical Musselman March team, which isn't going to happen this early in the year. That's stretching things out quite a bit. But what I'm saying is, if they ever hit their peak early in the season, of course you're always concerned about falling off the peak, right? But if they hit their peak early in the season, dude, there'd be some win streaks. I mean, I just think that this team's ceiling, if they come anywhere near close to their ceiling at any point, and typically for Musselman, it's in March. That's what he builds. He builds teams for March, especially this year. And I think he was kind of experimenting a little bit. How could you pass on those big-time potential first-round lottery picks, with Nick Smith, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, all these big-time players? How could you pass up on those guys, right? And then you had some other boys in that mix too, right? You had Ricky Council. But this year it's very clear. Last year was an experiment. He really thought that group would work. Obviously the Nick Smith stuff later in the year just never unfolded the way we thought it would. This year it's a different approach. He's always thinking of what recipes work the best in March. And that's why sometimes you hit these bizarre losses, and sometimes they happen. You lose to teams you think you would beat. I would argue that the majority of his losses are games that don't shock anybody. I would still argue Oklahoma a couple years ago in the BOK. That was not a good Oklahoma team, and they beat you, right? And, just there's been some games over the years where you think, damn, they just don't look like, they're just not anywhere near close to being their best. I always like to say the March version of Musselman's teams, those teams would go absolutely, if not, I'm not going to say undefeated in conference play, but damn close. I'm talking like 3 or 4 losses in conference play at the most. Like, that's just how well his teams are built in March. But there's several teams that could make the same claims, they play their best ball in March. Arkansas is not the only team, but it is pretty unique to Arkansas in the SEC that they're so good in March. Ain't no way Dominion should have scored. I agree, Johnny. I agree 110%. And again, Vanderbilt's probably thinking the same thing. We could sit here and we could chalk up a loss to Vandy early on. I guarantee you, if Vandy gets things figured out, that could be a really good basketball team. And I think they're going to be a pretty good ball. I'm not saying tournament. They're just going to be a team that they're probably going to get a win somewhere they're not supposed to get, and it's going to happen at home. They do this, it seems like every year they have 1 or 2 of those. I'm also worried about how Brazil defends. Didn't blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Brazil's defense, I'm not saying it's bad, but it has stood. He's just not a physical guy. He doesn't tend to I don't know. He gets boxed out. Like it's not. I'm not seeing him be as aggressive as I thought he would be on the boards. Now, what he could do for you on the offensive end of the floor, he could be someone, if he could ever play a full damn game, he could probably get you 17, 18, 16, somewhere between 16 and 19 points, and on a bad night, maybe 12 points, but he gets 8 boards, and maybe a couple of, maybe a few blocks. But, there was some Gafford comparisons last year with him early on, and I think that's fair with his athleticism, his ability to run up and down the floor with that size. He doesn't kind of, it's not like a slow roll up and down the floor. He can move up and down the floor pretty well. Very athletic. I just was hoping his defense, and I don't feel like this was something we talked a lot about last year. Maybe there's maybe he's still a little bit concerned about re-injuring himself, and maybe that's what it is. And remember, who he did this against, who he had that injury against, was UNC Greensboro last year. So you kind of hope that doesn't pop into his head, or he keeps that out of his mind tonight. That might be the thing we should talk more about, is Brazil and how he bounces back. Maybe he wants to take out some aggression tonight, or maybe it kind of creeps into his head a little bit about what happened a year ago. I can't relate to that scenario at all, getting hurt against a team and then coming back the next year. Not that it was necessarily that other team's fault, but, just that thought that what could have been, and it all started with these guys and what happened on the floor. You kind of wonder, man, there's a mental aspect to sports we just don't talk enough about. Whether it's in football, it's all about, and in basketball too, to be fair, maybe less so in baseball, but how much the crowd kind of gets into your head one way or another. This is why winning on the road in basketball is really hard to do. Just how much, you talk about what's going on at the free throw line, and 9 times out of 10, it's just a mental thing. They're either just not good free throw shooters because they don't spend enough time working on that shot, or it's a mental thing, right? We just don't talk enough about that. So I kind of wonder how Brazil responds tonight mentally. Maybe he balls out. We're kind of waiting on seeing that moment open up for Brazil, where it's like, oh snap, okay, this is the guy we were missing last year, and we've seen bits and pieces of that this year. His dunks are always highlight worthy. We know he's capable of being a high level rebounder. I think he's capable of getting 8 or 9 rebounds a game. He's certainly capable of being a threat on the offensive end of the floor. And my God, he could stretch the floor with that 3 ball. I mean, who would have thought he would still be doing that? And how much he's worked on that game, it's really paid off. So you kind of wonder how well he bounces back tonight. Again, this is the team that happened against a year ago. And this is going to be a good team. I think I almost just want to say this might be a tournament team that you're playing up against tonight. Ty, I heard the reason Catalan left was because he found out Hornsby was making more NIL money than him. Yeah, I don't know. I'm over that. That's 2 guys that aren't here anymore. I mean, it is what it is when you talk about NIL. I know Pittman. It's pretty clear, when they had that event where him and who was it? Him, Robert Moore. Who else was there? Musselman wasn't there. They went to they did some NIL event at a bar or something. I don't know. I saw it somewhere. It was posted on U of A's website. You could hang out with them. Was it George's Majestic on Dixon? I don't know where it was at. Somewhere you could go hang out with them. I don't know why I have George's Majestic in my head. You could tell it seems to me like they're trying to ratchet up NIL stuff, and it just kind of is what it is. I don't know. I have no idea how deep their pockets are with NIL, but it seems to be pretty clear that basketball seems like they can go out and get just about, I know they whiffed on some guys, but they can go out and get just about anybody they want in basketball. Football, another thing we don't discuss enough of is, do players really want to go to a school that's trying to dig themselves out of another hole? Maybe that's as big a part of it as the NIL, the available NIL funds, right? Okay, Arkansas, Greensboro. I'm gonna finish up the Greensboro talk here with or with the basketball side of this, I'm going to say Arkansas probably wins tonight. Man, I don't know. 78-70, something like that. I think Arkansas wins low single digits, maybe 10 or 12 points, maybe. But I'm going to say 78-70 tonight in Arkansas's favor. We're going to learn a lot about probably about both these teams, but we're going to learn a lot about some individuals, how well they step up. You're going up against a team that actually has a little bit more length around around a couple spots on the floor. We'll see how they respond. We do have predictions up, by the way. I have never seen a basketball prediction skyrocket like this. Not this early in the year. And excuse me. Right now, the Tuss Talk with Ty Discord, we have UNC Greensboro at Arkansas, and I just have total blocks. Thinking about it, I probably should have just done who what's the final score or something like that, because I really think this could be a close one. But I want to give everyone a better opportunity at some XP tonight. Patreon supporters get 10,000 XP. $8 and up club members get 15,000 XP, and then legendary status members get 20,000. And then what we call the normies, the non-Patreon supporters, they get just 5,000. But against total blocks, and this thing is already 10, 20, 30. We're at 31 picks. I do not remember the last time this early in the basketball season. We've done so many of these predictions. I don't remember the last time us breaking 20 this early in the year for a non-conference game against someone like UNC Greensboro. Now, Duke is going to blow up. That's going to be probably one of our most – I would predict that's going to be one of our heaviest Discord predictions that we've done in basketball in the regular season. But, yeah, FIU at Arkansas is also up, and it's actually doing pretty well also. What are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're at like 10 picks, and I just published that this morning, actually. So, again, that's total points scored. So if you want to go get in on that, it's fun. If you want to go get in on it, make sure you're in Discord and go look under forums on the left side of the page. You'll find it, and you could put in your prediction. Duke probably going to stomp us, says Johnny Jones. Well, if you play the way you did in the last game, it's going to be a tough one for sure. I don't know about stomp just yet. I want to see how Arkansas surprise or how well they play and if they surprise tonight. Give me the Hogs with 4 blocks tonight, says Pigpen. Now you got to make sure you're in our Discord, Pigpen. It's still early, and that's a good point. As Razorback Rock says, it's still early. We still have a ton to prove. Hey, guys, don't forget, check out the links provided for you down below if you want to become a Patreon member. That link is provided for you. Also, shout out to, and we're about to segue into football, by the way. We're going to talk some more Sam Pittman and so on and so forth. But direct service overhead, right now they're offering 10% off on any work that you need done. 10% off any garage door repair, I should say. It's part of their winter savings. It's direct service overhead, the garage door company. Better than best results, hundreds of 5-star reviews. They offer emergency service 24/7, 365 days a year. Same-day services. They've got you covered. Link is provided for you down below, 501-244-3667. As we segue into football, I know this is it's just so bizarre that Arkansas has fallen this far in football, and I'm not afraid to say that. Like, I know some other folks, they don't want to. We've already gone down that road, and I get it. It's still just. I'm going to be real with you, man. It's kept me up a little bit at nights. Like, I have sat there and just stared at the ceiling or look out my window as I'm trying to go to sleep and think, what the hell happened to this football team? How could they have fallen like this under a head coach who coached offensive line for 3 decades? Like, how could things be this bad up front? How could this team be this bad and yet have a defense that's turned things around? Had you told me at the beginning of the season, Ty, they're going to be most of the year, they're going to be top 40, top 50 in a lot of defensive categories. Special teams is finally going to have mostly mostly a much more improved year. Centennial's going to lead. He's going to be top 3 in the SEC in punt return yards. Of course, it wouldn't shock you about what's going on in the kicking game, but had you told me that, and with the defense being where it's at, I would have said, this is a 10-2 football team. You kidding me? Are you kidding me with KJ and Rocket and AJ Green, DeBinion? Dom John seems to be back and healthy. He's still wearing that brace, whatever at the time. With these, I was pretty big on Andrew Armstrong. I was certainly big on Tesla based on his film. He was a lot of fun to watch. He was fun to watch in spring and fall camp. Based on everything that we knew coming out of fall camp, even though I had questions about the tackles, about pass blocking, and some people kept telling me, and they've disappeared. I don't know where they've gone, but they kept telling me, well, Ty, our defensive line, have you ever considered how great they are? Okay, sure, they could still be pretty good, but the tackles looked horrible. Pass blocking looked horrible, and I said that here after fall camp. I said, I've got questions about their pass blocking, and here we are. They're one of the worst at pass blocking, and they've allowed, I think it's the second most sacks in the SEC. It's either the most or the second most. I've lost track, but I don't know what the answer really is, other than in the offseason going into the portal and just trying to grab every offensive lineman you can. And it's got to be quality, guys, not quantity. But that might be easier said than done. I don't even know if that's the answer, because then you still have to go out and look for I don't know what's going to happen with Kennedy if he loses his job. Something tells me he's probably going to be out. He's going to be pushed out the door. I don't know how you could keep him. I mean, just at face value, when you're looking at what's wrong with this team, whether or not you think he's a good offensive line coach, there's got to be another sacrificial lamb, assuming Pittman keeps his job. There's got to be another sacrificial lamb, and given how bad the offensive line has looked, how could it not be Coach Kennedy? You look on the defense, who deserves to keep their job on defense? Every single one of them. On offense, who deserves to keep their job? I don't know, tight end coach? I mean, and I know we all want to give Kenny Guyton a pass. I don't know that I'm willing to do that. His receivers have not been good. His own guys, who, by the way, they looked good against Florida. You had a sneak attack on Florida. They had no idea what they were in for. Florida's, their leading tackler out for that game. They've got some injuries. Arkansas had a bye week, took full advantage. Thank you, Coach Guyton. He had to dial the right buttons. He and KJ and his receivers look to be like they're all on the same page. And then we're back to form against Auburn, who's not they're a better football team than where they were at 4 or 5 weeks ago. They're playing better. Their run game is solid. Their offensive line play is pretty good. Their defense is not exactly elite, even though they've got some good, talented players over there on that side of the ball. They made you look like Mississippi State did. I mean, and who's calling the plays at the end of the day? And this isn't a Kenny Guyton doesn't deserve the opportunity to be. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's going to be a bad offensive coordinator. I'm saying his receivers have been not good this year. Now, it's not all on them. We all know where this starts. We already talked about him. We already talked about Kennedy. It starts up front of the offensive line. It doesn't help that KJ has about 0.5 seconds to get rid of the football. It's not really on the receivers all the time, but I'm going to tell you right now, and this is talking to media members who watch this sort of stuff, who are at the games. They get a wider angle on the field of what's happening than you do on television. Now, don't get me wrong, the best seat in the house is always it's always the television, but you only get to see what the TV is zoomed in on. There's a whole back end of the defense you don't get to see necessarily unless the announcers bring it up. How many times this year have we heard even the announcers say these receivers aren't getting open downfield? And I could tell you, talking to people that are there, either media or other friends of mine that go to the games, receivers are never open downfield or rarely open downfield. Now, Luke has had an ability of getting wide open, and I saw that in fall camp. Every time someone threw him the ball, he was wide open. You lost that, right? And then Washington goes down too. Those are two big blows. And yet the tight end room just keeps – they've done a good job at delivering. That guy, they deserve to keep him, or he deserves to keep his job. The receivers, I don't know what the defense is for Kenny Guyton. I just don't. And again, I think one day he will be a good offense coordinator. I hope he probably will get an interview if they get anywhere near close to what they did against Florida on the offensive side of the ball, and that could happen against FIU. And of course, we're going to talk about Criswell here in just a second, because there is a belief that he's going to get some more playing time. Sam Pittman said he's earned that right. But again, I haven't been impressed with his receivers. I thought last year they weren't that. I mean, yeah, you had a little bit of production on Matt Landers, but it was kind of the same story. Guys just having a hard time getting open. So I don't know. I mean, of course, if we're going to talk about sacrificial lambs, the first one's got to be Kennedy. If you wanted to keep Kenny Guyton because he has done a decent job at high school recruiting, I can understand that. But on the field, product out of his receivers have just not been that great. You know, now before anyone brings up Treylon Burks, my God in heaven, you and I could have been the receivers coach that year, and Burks was going to do his thing, okay? End of the story. That's it. Burks naturally was a gifted, legit first-round receiver. Unfortunately, he can't stay healthy. Should never have been drafted by the Titans. That was just such a blow for him. I don't think that was ever a good fit, and then you match that with the injuries. But all I'm saying is nobody's safe at the end of the year. Is it probable that he keeps Kenny Guyton? I think it's probable. I don't know if it's I'm not as confident, I'll say that. I certainly was after the Florida game. I thought for sure, well, hell, this guy might be the new OC. We'll see what he does, man. He's got 2 more opportunities. We'll see if Kenny and Sam can get things fixed on the offensive side of the ball, then we might be having a different conversation. But based on the body of work so far, I don't know that anybody's safe. I don't know that anybody's safe on the offensive side of things. So FIU, they're bad, okay? I know that's a given. I know it's a given when you just mention FIU. Man, they're 1-6 in arguably one of the worst conferences in college football. They are the worst team in Conference USA. They're 1-6, 4-6 overall. They rank. They're not a very efficient rushing offense. They're a one-dimensional offense. They're going to throw the ball around a little bit. They rank 124th in rushing yards per game. They average 95 yards per game there, 225 yards through the air. That's good enough for top 70. They are a horrific points for team. They're 119th in scoring offense, and then they're giving up close to 30 points a game. They're 102nd in points yielded and points given up. I mean, they're just not good. I mean, I know that's a given with them. I know they're dealing with some injuries as well, like everybody is late in the year. Right now, they do have their 4 wins include Sam Houston, at UConn. They won 24-17. North Texas, they beat 46-39. They beat Maine 14-12. And they went on the road against Louisiana Tech this year and lost 22-17. I mean, they have that's really their only close loss. Everything else has been 38-6. They lost to Liberty, Liberty's once again a really good football team. I know people are bringing him up too as a future head coach, the head coach at Liberty, but they won that game by 32 points, 38-6. Liberty did. They got beat by New Mexico State, 34-17. UTEP beat them 27-14. They lost to Jacksonville State, 41-16. Then they lost at Mid-Tennessee State, 40-6. Guys, they're horrible. If this is a close game for even more than a quarter, I mean, Arkansas should trounce these guys. I know, given all the issues Arkansas has had, even Sam Pittman admitted himself, against teams like this, we have struggled. That's what the numbers say. Arkansas has not been very good at home this year, which is wild. You barely beat Kent State and Fayetteville 28-6. You lose to BYU. You lose to Mississippi State 7-3, and then you lose to Auburn 48-10. These are all losses in Fayetteville. They've played their worst football at home, and that's just who would have thought? Who would have thought? You could go to Gainesville and say what you want about them. Arkansas's never won there, and that's not a very good Florida Gator football team. But you had to go into overtime, but you still beat them 39-36. But you can't beat BYU at home, a bottom of the mid-tier Big 12 football team. You lose 38-31. I mean, that probably should have been more than enough right there for us. Oh, no, they're going to be bad this year. They're going to be bad. We should have known right then and there. And then you had all these moral victories. You had all these close games afterwards, which who gives a shit? So FIU tonight, man, this is make or break for Sam. I believe 110% that if Sam loses this game, Hunter Yurchek will be forced to make a move. I don't know. I don't know how the hell anybody keeps their job. Now, if this was like a Liberty caliber team, like what they did a year ago, maybe that's slightly more understanding and then whatever. And yeah, I will say it does seem like, again, the more you look at it, Sam is probably going to keep his job. But FIU, dude, there's just no excuse for this to even be a football game. I don't care how bad you've been at home. I don't care how wishy-washy your offense is, mostly bad your offense has been this year. I don't care about any of that. Like, FIU is maybe one of the worst group of 5 schools there are. I know there's a lot of them that are really bad. They've been affected by the portal, injuries, all this stuff. They're not a good team. They're the worst team in a group of 5 conference. It's 6:30 on ESPNU. It's not on the Ocho. It's on ESPNU. Yeah, they should win, all right? The spread right now is Arkansas. It's 29.5 points. Now, and the over-under set at 49 points, 49.5 points. Does Arkansas cover that? Does Arkansas cover? I'm going to say no. I do think they probably take care of business. I'm thinking by like 14 or 17 points. I was a little bit surprised by that. 29.5. They haven't. Are bettors? Is Vegas? Are they looking at what Arkansas's done at home? If they do cover this, or if they win by anything more than 20 points, I'm going to be a little – I shouldn't say I'm going to be shocked because of how bad FIU is, but it'll be a pleasant, at least surprise maybe. I don't think I would even say the word surprise. It'd be good to see, but even still, it's FIU. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I'm going to do the post game on both these last 2 games for Arkansas football, but, I don't know. The state of affairs with Razorback football is just – here we are again, 4 years later, man. 4 years later. Over under again, 49,000. I don't know how many people are going to be there. If they, I don't know. I don't even want to guess. I have no idea what the crowd's going to be like. Now, it won't. The good news is you got basketball tonight. Maybe there's more people that want to go to both these games just to say, hey, I spent a weekend in Fayetteville, went to Dixon Street, hung out, with folks, went to JJ's. Well, I don't know. Did a little bit of bar hopping up and down Dixon, and I had a good Friday and Saturday night. Maybe that's the people that come into town. Or just family, maybe family, someone wants to bring their kids. Maybe a dad wants to bring his kids to enjoy a weekend in Fayetteville. A crummy weekend weather-wise. That kind of sucks. Weather's not super – it does. It looks like you're in like it looks like London outside. It's depressing. I like the temperature. I just don't like the lack of any light. Not digging that. Hogs win 59-10. Sarcasm. Okay. 29.5 point spread is wild. It is, isn't it? Considering what we've seen. If FIU scores more than 10, it's a fail, says Philip White. Well, I mean, our NIL is adequate, says Jeremy Gray. They're just trying to change the narrative. Like the government. Oh, here we go. I'm not going to get in on that stuff. Appreciate the comment, Jeremy, but I'm not reading all that. I will genuinely be surprised to win by double digits. We all saw Kent State. Exactly. Kent State, not a good team either. I haven't checked up on them. How are they doing? It's been a few weeks since I've looked at them. Last I saw, they were pretty bad. They only had that one loss against a small Connecticut school. I think they were riding a losing streak. Let me pull this up. Oh, my God. They're 1-9. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I thought they would have at least 3 wins by now. Oh, my God. They're bad. Oh, what, Arkansas? What were you doing? Oh, that's right. You were sucking. Barely beat these guys. Kent State is horrible. Okay. Connecticut is their only loss. Central Connecticut Blue Devils. Or only win, excuse me. They won 38-10. They went to Fresno State. They lost 53-10. They lost to Buffalo 24-6. Bowling Green 49-19. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm not. I think I would probably bet the under on this. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Maybe Kenny Guyton. That's the difference here, right? And I know what happened against Auburn. Either Auburn has just turned on the light and now they're elite and they're going to beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl, or Arkansas is still just as bad as they were, and Florida's just that. They're just worse than I certainly thought they were. Oh my God. I would not have guessed that. 1-9. I mean, I knew they were bad. Last I saw, they were like 1-4. I thought they would at least have a couple more wins. Oh my goodness, guys, that just looks that much worse. Come on, yeah, get the likes up. Appreciate that, Hog Wild. Thanks, man. Yeah. It's early morning. We don't typically do these this early. All right, we're up against it here. Hour and 10 minutes. I mean, obviously, I'm taking Arkansas to win this game. Like, I don't know if should I say obviously? Like, really? I'm gonna take. I don't think Arkansas covers that. I think that's gonna be a. Yeah, I think FIU. I would say FIU covers. What on earth is Vegas smoking? Maybe we're all wrong and they just see something we don't. I don't know. Maybe they really think Auburn is that good. maybe that's the case. I don't know. Arkansas's 3-7 on the year, 1-6 in conference play. Yeah, they're tied with Mississippi State, just ahead of Vanderbilt, 0-7. It's likely that Arkansas finishes the year 1-7 in conference. You got Mizzou coming to town on the 24th. You know, we'll take it a game at a time, but yeah, I don't like Arkansas's odds. So again, this is make or break. Now, Criswell. We'll finish off with the last part of the title of this video about Criswell. Sam Pittman says he's earned the right, and I know a lot of you. I was going to end, and we went so heavy in on the laughing at this close victory over Kent State and getting in on some of the other stuff. Criswell, it's now. Let me be clear. And I know people seem to think I have an anti-Criswell. I like that's my take on him. Yeah, he's missed. I've seen him miss some pretty wide open throws in fall camp or in fall camp fastball throughout the season when the media was actually allowed to be there. But I've also seen him make some nice throws. I really thought the plan was, and I love the potential there, Dan Enos being the quarterback guy. Okay. I don't know whether you buy into that still or not. I'm sure a lot of you hate the guy and don't believe he did anything positive ever in his coaching career. I will say I think he's done some good for quarterbacks. I stand by that. Clearly Alabama thought well enough of him to bring him on and help coach the quarterbacks. But I really thought that's what we were going to see happen. You're going to have KJ with a nice exit, and then Criswell, Enos is going to build – he's going to have a full season as a backup with Criswell to work with him, and then have the offseason to develop him and to get the most out of him as a potential, as the next QB1 at Arkansas. And I still have high hopes for Criswell. I've seen him make some great throws in fastball. I think he's got the arm talent to make plays. We saw a shred of that when he threw that touchdown to Tesla. And we actually got to see him run the ball pretty effectively, even though it was, just the one. So Sam says he's earned the right to get on the field. We'll see if that happens. Sam has said plenty of things in practice or to the media and that not transpire on the field, and whether that was out of his hands or not, which is weird to say when you're talking about the whole move in the pocket stuff for KJ. Never happened, right? What was going on between him and Dan Enos? Why was it that happening on the field? Maybe we will see Criswell. I think he would – listen, FIU is obviously a bad football team. This would be a great confidence builder. If you can get a good lead, let's say you go into the fourth quarter with a 20-point lead, yes, you should play Criswell. I want to see him in a game like, against FIU. Hell, he could even come out and look better than KJ has. I kind of wonder what is going on mentally with KJ this year. He's never come. I say never. Against Florida, he certainly looked like his old self. He does put you in the best position to win games, in my opinion, between him and Criswell, only because of his sheer athleticism and what we've seen him do to evade tackles, to get out of sacks, his ability to just make plays with either his arm or most of the time with his feet. I still don't know if Criswell has that level of strength and that physical type of runner, but I certainly felt a little bit better based on what I got to see, even if it was against the scrubs. I fully agree. I had someone DM me and tell me now I'm being too high on Criswell. I'm either too low on him or I'm too high, but said he's nowhere near the athleticism of KJ. Listen, he showed us a little bit, and we've seen tidbits of it in camp, but you got to remember, they don't show you the whole thing in camp. They don't show you the whole offense and fastball, and they don't tackle the quarterbacks. Hell, they barely touch the quarterbacks, if at all, in fastball. So it's different. You don't really get to see how he runs through tacklers the way KJ does. You don't see KJ do that in fastball because they don't want to get him hurt. Everybody does that. That's been the norm in football now for probably 3 decades. Well, maybe 2-3 decades, right? You don't maybe even further back than that, but you always had those coaches that wanted everybody to get a taste of the physicality of the game of football, but those guys they're not around anymore, and rightfully so, right? I mean, you don't want to hurt your quarterback, but Criswell has earned the right. I hope we see him against FIU. It's a tremendous opportunity for him to go in and build some confidence. I don't know what happens in the offseason, even if Sam stays or goes. Criswell has earned that right to play. Again, you need to get a pretty big lead in order for that to happen, unless KJ. Again, I'm of the belief he's either fully let go of the rope or he's been so beat up. The guy has had. I mean, he has taken a physical abuse this year, or physical abuse this year. He has been trounced. Whether if he's running the ball or if he's getting pressured in the quarterback, if he's getting hit in the throw or before the throw, I don't know of another quarterback that takes as much contact as him. And I think that's another thing that we don't discuss enough about. His body's probably about done. So I kind of wonder if the minute KJ starts to really show that he's struggling, if he has 3 bad series in a row against someone like FIU that we don't see Criswell trot out onto the field, who's nowhere near as physically banged up and has not had to endure the tough mental abuse that this season has had on someone like it has with KJ. God only knows how well he's handling it really when he goes to his locker, to his dorm room. He's a tough kid. And listen, I'm going to always cheer for KJ. He's still one of my favorite Razorbacks. The guy puts this team on his shoulders time and time again. As soon as he shows a little bit of, a couple of bad games, fans are already over it. They want him out, which I think is ridiculous because I do believe this entire time he's given you the best chance in games. However, there's just some people who don't want to admit the offensive line has not permitted a quarterback, running back, the offense, whatever, receivers getting open, and they're not giving anybody time. And so maybe you do start thinking about how to handle the KJ and Criswell situation in terms of playing time from here on out. Now, Missouri, if you had to ask Sam, he's going to tell you we're absolutely playing KJ with not a whole lot of Criswell mixed in there unless KJ just completely, whether he gets banged up, God forbid, or, you're getting blown out. That's the only 2 ways I see him going in and playing against Missouri. And that's the right move. He gives you assuming KJ's at least healthy enough to finish the game. But it's clear, I think, over the years, this guy's taken as much abuse as any player I've ever seen at Arkansas. I mean, only running backs have probably taken more abuse than KJ, and that's saying something. That's all those guys do. If they're not pass blocking, they're running the football. And you think about how many times Darren McFadden, how often he got the ball, and this is why you're seeing more and more NFL teams. They've gone to this running back by committee. This is what they do. You don't have just one elite back anymore. Some teams do, but it's become this guy's going to get 15 carries. This guy's going to get 8 or 9 or 12 or whatever carries. There's a reason for that. The physicality, the abuse that these running backs take. So think about that. KJ has probably taken more contact than running backs have this year. And for a quarterback, even as big and stout as KJ is, that takes a toll on your body. So I kind of wonder now, the Criswell play is wide open. Whatever happens, it wouldn't shock me if we see him really begin to struggle against someone like FIU and we see Criswell trotted out onto the field. And that might be the right move because Criswell – he's obviously in a much better, in much better physical condition than KJ is. So maybe for that reason he gets an opportunity. I still think at full strength, no injuries, KJ gives you the best chance to win games. But at this point, you're also a little bit desperate to try something different. And maybe Criswell's got the keys to this offense, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter much if his offensive line continues to play as poorly as they have. So we'll see what happens here. And I'm of the belief we see Criswell. And it could happen against Missouri because if Missouri comes in and just curb stomps you, then yeah, Criswell's probably going to play. And he's going to get opportunities to look really good because if that's the case, once again, he's going to go up against scrubs, and then that'll be the whole offseason conversation. Well, Criswell should have been the starter. Criswell should have been the guy all year. Look what he did against Auburn. Look what he did against the bad FIU team. Look what he did against the scrubs against Missouri. Maybe not. Maybe the opposite happens. Maybe he plays against quality players in Missouri. He comes in a situation where, he's playing against the best that they have to offer because KJ's pulled or whatever happens, and he turns it up and looks the part. I don't know. Anything could happen. At this point, never say never, right? I mean, who really knows what's going to happen from this point on? But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. This is a team that's not going bowling, and it's not likely that who knows what they do against Mizzou. I'm of the belief, and I'm sure majority of you are as well, they're probably going to lose pretty badly to Missouri. And, again, the question's going to be, do they wait until December to make a move? Is there any real truth that they have made a decision on Sam Pittman's career? And if so, what was it exactly when that was being reported? Because remember, nobody reported he was fired. They just simply said there's something has been determined about his future as the head coach at the University of Arkansas. I part of me wants to say he's done no matter what happens after Missouri, unless he wins. So it's not really no matter what happens, but if they find a way to beat Missouri, it's going to be a different, that's a different conversation entirely. That's a completely different conversation. That puts you back into that 5-win category, and it puts you against a good win against a quality opponent. So, yeah, at that point, Hunter Yurchek, his hand would be forced to keep him another year, right? Or so you would think. But, I'm of the belief that he's on a what happens in these final 2 games. That's where he's at right now. What happens with these 2 final games? And maybe that means all he's got to do is split them. He's just got to beat FIU, and no matter what happens against Missouri, he keeps his job. Or it could be no matter what happens other than beating Missouri that he's fired. I don't know. I've almost just given up with that. Again, only God knows. Only God, Hunter Yurchek really know, or the Board of Trustees maybe. Only they know. And we're just going to have to twiddle our thumbs and wait until everyone finds out, right? Okay. The curse of that number 1 bling. KJ being faster than Criswell. Ty ads are popping up. Well, that's not me. That's YouTube inserting ads. That's not me putting ads in. I'm talking about KJ being faster. Ty, the NIL is adequate. They are just changing the narrative to take focus off the true problem. That could be true. Pittman is gone. I think the delay is he will be moved to an office position. Dude, I do not see Sam. No way. I don't see Sam taking a demotion. No way. I just don't. I think he's more likely to retire off to Hot Springs than he is to take a demotion and stay with the university. Crazier things have happened. I don't know that I see that. I think it's more likely he's either fired, gone from the program, or he stays. I don't think he's going to stick around he's not going to settle for a demotion. Would have any other quarterback last as long as KJ with the pounding he has been taking all year and maybe last year. Yeah, I it's unfortunate for KJ because he was on top of the world when you talk about – I mean, there were people telling me he's the greatest quarterback in Arkansas history, maybe just behind Ryan Mallett. And I'm not saying that he should or shouldn't be there, but that was some of the rhetoric coming from people either on Twitter or in live chat or Discord. And this season has taken such a toll on his reputation, and that is so unfortunate. Because I still would put him as one of the top 5 quarterbacks ever at Arkansas. I mean, his ability to put this team on his shoulders and find a way, and yeah, a lot of those were close losses. How much worse would those losses be with somebody else at quarterback? He always gets you. I think he's going to go down as that quarterback that got you in position to win those games, but had a hard time winning those games. And how much of that is on him? How much of that is on Sam, the OC at the time? You can go back to Kendall Briles and his inability to win some of those close games, and obviously this year their inability to win some of those close games. YouTube is hammering your content with ad breaks. That's crazy. Hold on. What's going on? Yeah, there shouldn't be ads. Oh. Okay. So now, all right. Okay, I know better now. I'll tell you what's happening right now. When you go live, typically before I go live, the monetization, there's an option. Anyone who's a YouTuber knows this. If you do live shows, you get the option to either make that show monetized or not. Well, I monetize every single show because ads still roll after I'm done streaming, right? So when you go back and watch, there will be ads when you go back and watch. The difference is I have it set to where live ads only exist when I say they can. So I get to control the amount of ads that you see in a live. Typically, I either do at the very end or at the very beginning. Well, when I went live and I didn't look at my monetize, it just said that it was on, which has never happened, by the way. I have to physically select on. What they did was, this is clever. What they did was, they've been listening to me talk about not monetizing my lives, or not, not that. Me not rolling ads in the middle of my lives. The default option apparently was let YouTube insert mid-rolls for you, and they selected this as the recommended option. YouTube will determine which ad formats are best for your live stream and when ads appear. That's why there's ads. Okay. Is there another option? Dude, they completely reset this. That shouldn't have happened. Hold on. Okay, maybe that's it. Insert. They've changed. Oh, sneaky. I saw it set, and I just assumed it saved my last time I went live. I apologize, guys. I'm so sorry for that. Of course, this happens. I mean, I monetize every live. Simply because, I mean, YouTube ad revenue rolls after this show is done. Interesting. So so the two options are let YouTube insert mid-rolls for, basically live rolls for ads, or I get to choose how ads appear. But I guess the now default option is simply to let YouTube, so I'm going to change that. I've never seen it do that before. So I'm going to insert mid-rolls ads manually. I can also schedule them. Maybe I should do that at the beginning, at the end of a live show. Anyways, I'm telling you, the things that you learn. There we go. So hopefully that gets rid of those ads. I apologize. It was already set to monetize, and I was in a hurry because I wanted to get this live up at 9, and I didn't actually read the fine print. I apologize about that. It's okay. I mean, it supports your channel, right? It does. I just don't want the show to be I know that, listen, when I watch a live show and there's an ad that pops up, man, I'm there for the creator. I get that the ads support the creator, but it does still kind of like, well, shit, now I got to wait 3 or 4 seconds. Were they skippable ads, by the way? Let me know. He lets you down 9, 10 times. Who are you talking about? You talking about Camo? Are you talking about KJ? No quarterback has ever had such a patient fan base and support because he's proven it and he's earned it. That is such a fan take like I have never seen before, Camo. Come on, bro. You're better than that. You're better than that. He has earned fan support. When a player earns fan support, he's got to do something drastic to lose it. And KJ, who has, he has taken a physical toll, man. No, I disagree with that 110%. Battle shot 90% last year. He did it the free throw line. Yes, Marco. Hey, by the way, thanks for the follow back on X. I'm trying to get better at following people back. Yeah, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I don't promote it a lot because about the only thing I post or when I go live. I used to tweet more there, but you can follow me at Tuss Talk Ty on Twitter or at Ty Hudson, I think 83. I don't even know anymore. Camo on one like always. That's just crazy. He lets you down as if it's all on him. Camo, that's just a wild take, bro. Criswell for a half and KJ for a half. Let's see it happen. I think Criswell will outperform KJ. He has potential. I don't know that I agree, Tristan. I mean, KJ has at least proven he is listen, there's a reason why a lot of national media would argue that Arkansas had the best quarterback running back combo. And it starts with KJ. KJ has proven time and time again he's what makes things work. Now, I'm not saying Criswell wouldn't go out and have a great game. I think he's capable. I've said since he transferred here, this was a good get for him or for Arkansas. Marketers should understand that when an ad interrupts content, it makes people not like them. Yeah, it sucks. I don't like mid. I didn't even notice that. I just did not see that. I saw that it was already pre-selected to be monetized, which was odd. But I just saw that and I thought, oh, well, it saved my last settings from the last time I went live. I mean, maybe that was, I don't know, but I'll go in and fix that afterwards so that doesn't happen again. No OC and no quarterback would have success with this horrendous O-line play. That's a fact. If you can't run the ball and you have no time to throw, it doesn't matter who's calling the plays or who's quarterback. I am going to pin that. Taylor Roberts with the corner pocket 3 ball is what that was. There you go. What's KJ's biggest win? I mean, he beat Texas. He beat, Penn State, although they didn't do very well. That's probably not a good example. They didn't throw the ball very well in that game, but they ran it pretty effectively. Kansas, he balled out. BYU, look what he did on the road against BYU, against a pretty competitive BYU team. He's got a number of good games. Again, we're talking about body of work, Camo. His body of work would suggest when they had the right guy calling plays, at least a halfway decent offensive line, a good backfield, and just some average receivers, he could make the offense work. Camo, you're just full of shit, man. I'm sorry. You're just full of shit if you don't think KJ. Sorry, bro. I'm going to go in on you. I'm saying it. You're full of shit. KJ absolutely earned the right. Up until this year, you weren't saying that. This one season where you've had arguably the worst offensive line you have ever had. The worst offensive line, at least since Chad Morris. No way. No one, like someone said, like Taylor Roberts said, no one's going to have success with that poor offensive line play. KJ has been mediocre at best, let's be honest. Good God. It's real easy to kick a guy when he struggled. Did you say we only have a few more SEC wins than Vandy in last? Did I say that? Yeah, KJ hate is unreal. You don't break records if you're a bad quarterback. I said last year we like KJ because he's all we got. Camo, he has certainly earned the right. He's earned his place, man. I mean, he was a really, really solid quarterback, a good quarterback until this year. No one was talking this way. I'll tell you the last time anyone was talking this way about KJ, it was before he went on the road against Missouri as a redshirt freshman. Everyone was saying, KJ, if we have to go with KJ, it's going to be a disaster. And I even said if KJ plays, they probably don't win. They probably don't win that game. And they didn't win the game. But he certainly put Arkansas – I mean, you saw a far superior product on the field. And then you move on to 2021. I mean, he had a fantastic year. 2022, despite all the deficiencies they had, I think your anger is misdirected. It probably should be directed at Barry Odom and the defense. KJ has not been the problem. And he certainly wasn't the problem this year. The offensive line was the problem. Has he played great this year? No. Has he struggled with a clean pocket at times? Yeah, but yet he's still throwing north of 65% with a clean pocket. You know, it should be higher, but receivers are struggling to get wide open. And listen, this is coming from Stephen Hamner, QB Spotlight, some other folks I've talked with in the media. They have issues all around KJ. No offense can be effective or even put a halfway decent product on the field when it starts up front with your line of scrimmage and you have about 0.5 to maybe a second to get rid of the football. If you believe that any other quarterback would have better success with that offensive line, with how banged up your running backs have been this year, how mediocre at best your wide receivers have been, how banged up your tight ends have been, I want to know who that is. Sir, it wouldn't have been Criswell. KJ always, right now, up until this point, has given you the best option to have the best product on the offensive side of the ball. Anything else is just misdirected hate at a quarterback because you're a fanatic. You're putting the fan in fanatic. KJ has absolutely earned respect at Arkansas. This 1 year should not tear down what he accomplished over the last couple of seasons. He's had a bad year, and it's not even all on him. I wouldn't even say it's a majority on him. He has blame. I've said it before. He hasn't looked himself. He's never looked comfortable. He did a great job against Florida. Camo, where were you after Florida? See, I mean, you're just an opportunist. You have a grudge or you have some issue with KJ and you want to put it all on him, and now you're given that opportunity given what happened in this last game. So now you've got ammunition. Yet you disappeared with Florida. You weren't saying much of anything in the first couple of games, even though they struggled against a bad opponent early on in the year. You wait until they start racking up losses. You're putting the fan in fanatic right now. I think it's silly to put this year on KJ. You haven't been paying attention. Hustle never sleeps, says KJ's been mediocre at best. Let's be honest. He's just good. He's just good because Arkansas hasn't had anyone good in a long time. And that's why he broke records, right? I mean, that's absurd. Got to disagree, man. He's been mediocre at best this year. Sure. Overall, he put this team on his shoulders time and time again. Right now, it's a great time to be anti-KJ. It's a great time to be anti-KJ. It's the most fan reaction thing to do, to hate on the guy who, I mean, let's be real, played a really big role in the success that you've had over the last 2 years. I mean, just point blank. You could certainly say, and I'll agree with you, that this year he has struggled. 110%, I agree. But how often has he had solid offensive line play this year? How often has he had that? Be real. All it takes, if someone wants to bring four, if they only want to bring four defensive linemen, you're a little bit concerned about his safety. But when they blitz a fifth guy, he's doomed. Teams have figured that out a long time ago. All you got to do is bring a fifth guy. Hell, you could bring 4 and get pressure on him consistently. If you bring a fifth, you're almost all but guaranteed a sack, or at least putting him in a really bad situation where he's got to run and try to do something with the ball, and typically he doesn't have time to do anything anyways. So, again, it's a great time to be anti-KJ. It's a great time for you guys that want to do that. I'm not going to do that because I think he's certainly built up a nice resume in terms of, or at least he's earned the respect. I mean, KJ hate did not come along until this year. But the last 2 years, he's been the reason why you either were in on some games or why you won some games. You take him out of the equation, you're going to struggle. But anyone who says that he hasn't earned respect, I don't know. It's just a fan thing. It's a fan reaction. We're looking at 8 conference game wins in 3 years. Hell of a gamer. And you're putting that all on KJ, and the defense has no blame whatsoever. Lack of NFL talent at wide receiver, tight end, hell, offensive line. Think about the talent he's had around him in that span of time. And think about how bad the defense has been. You got to learn to put things in perspective, my man. What about missing wide open receivers? As if no quarterback has ever done that. Again, it's just a good time to be anti-KJ because you can look at this year and say, man, he's really struggled. And you're not wrong. But to then say over the last 3 years, I don't know. You're on one, Camo. You're on this anti-KJ stuff, and I don't get it. I don't get it, bro. He's the leader of the team. He's the only one to blame. Yeah. You can't call a player shit, then say you're not anti-KJ. There you go. Yeah, you're pretty anti-KJ if you're saying that. KJ against Florida was vintage KJ. I agree. Now, again, can they go out and get someone that can, in the offseason? I don't know what's going to happen with I don't expect KJ to be back. I could be wrong. I don't expect him back. I don't know what's going to happen with Criswell, but can they go out and they find a gamer and go get someone who can operate well within whatever offense you're running at that time, right? You've got to find someone that fits the offense. I don't know. There's so many steps. There's so many more obstacles they've got to get through before we even get to that point, assuming Sam keeps his job. I mean, it's a tall order. Listen, we can all agree on this. Okay, we can all agree on this. Marco, I'm sorry I said you're full of shit. I will say I strongly disagree with you. Same with Hustle Never Sleeps. Strongly disagree with anyone who wants to take a shot at KJ because that dude has put this team on his shoulders time and time and time again. If you're going to put a single loss on KJ or a series of losses on KJ, I want to ask, do you know who he has around him? Do you know what has happened on the defensive side of the ball for the last 2 years? They were abysmal on defense. The defense put so much more pressure on the offense the last couple of years, especially in the second half of those seasons. I wouldn't be surprised if Camo doesn't know anyone else on the roster. I'm not going to insult the man's football IQ or the Razorback IQ. I'm not going to insult that. But, again, his KJ take, I just couldn't disagree more with. The pain that Superman dive against the Aggies last year's my only beef. Yeah, that was goofy. He shouldn't have done it. It's not to say the guy's been perfect. I've been pretty hard on him this year. He's missed some open throws. He's not looked himself. He's never looked comfortable. He did not have a good year. But it's just funny to me that those people that are so anti-KJ, they disappear when he has a good performance. They're gone. They vanish. They don't say anything. Camo's been around for a while, but a lot of people who come through and they shit talk KJ, I don't know, whatever. But They disappear when the guy has a good season or a good game. They're nowhere to be found. I mean, it's almost like people forget what happens when you don't have him. You look back at LSU, Mississippi State a year ago. He played injured against Liberty and still managed to put together a pretty good ball game. How many wins has KJ won by his play in 3 years? How many? See, Kopecky, again, you're another opportunist. How many games did you avoid blowouts? How many games did you manhandle some teams? You go back to Texas a couple of years ago. You can look at the, you look at the Kansas game. You look at the BYU game. I knew the line was going to suck this season when I saw 700-pound squat video. That crap never translates to do you want him back next year? If you had someone who could operate the veer and shoot, who could run that style of offense, and if they make some fixes on the offensive line, I'd be glad to have KJ back next year. Of course I would. Since 2018, Arkansas is 26-44, and that all doesn't. And yet you saw your best spike under Sam Pittman in that time span, and with KJ at quarterback. You proved my point. You had to go back 2 years. Well, because last year or this year they didn't have any great wins, and they were disappointing last year. But last year wasn't on KJ, Kopecky. Your point is silly. You're not looking at the defense. You're not looking at the defense. You're putting it all on KJ as though those losses are on KJ. KJ has done more than enough to put Arkansas in position to win plenty of games. To put these losses on KJ is ridiculous. There have been some games where he could have played better. He threw a pick late in the game. You know what? So did Ryan Mallett. Now, Ryan Mallett, I'm not saying Ryan Mallett is a better quarterback, but a different type of quarterback, way more arm talent, operated in the Petrino offense, and they had to overcome some deficiencies as well. But Kendall Briles isn't Bobby Petrino, and he managed to win a lot of games. But you know what? Year one, they didn't win a lot of games. They lost games because Ryan Mallett threw picks at the end of the game or fumbled the ball late. There's plenty of mistakes to be handed around over the last several years. But again, to put it all on KJ is silly. It's not KJ hate. If a quarterback has a bad run, why not try another quarterback? Because they clearly believe that KJ is the best man for the job. You just answered your own question. Once again, the O-line is terrible. Tom Brady wouldn't be successful. Yeah. All right, I'm going to end it here. Some of y'all are being just ridiculous. It's just, again, bizarre to me that we can all agree the offensive line is so bad and has been horrific. We all agree that last year the defense did not do the offense any favors and that they deserve a lot of the credit for the losses last year. Not KJ, the defense. It's bizarre that we can all agree on this, and yet your reply is we need to switch quarterbacks. That's strange. It's very clear that they feel like KJ gives them the best option to win these games, and I would agree with that. Now, again, Criswell could have a hell of a game tomorrow, and I hope that he does simply for his confidence. He's got a little bit to prove, but I think if anyone's capable of doing it, it is Criswell. But again, to sit back over the last 3 years and to put the losses on KJ is just crazy. Arkansas has had a lot of issues over that time, and quarterback really wasn't an issue. It's always been the defense. Or you look at this year, it's the offensive line. It's not simply been all on KJ. KJ has been a part of the issue this year. I agree. You guys won't catch me saying otherwise. He has been a part of the issue this year. He's not had a very good year, which is why I say it's kind of all out on the table now from here on out what happens at quarterback. You could see Criswell. I'll say it again. For anyone who wasn't here the first hour or so, they could swap out Criswell or KJ if he struggles. I think he's part of me wonders if he hasn't kind of checked out a little bit mentally And maybe it's time to give Criswell a shot. And maybe Criswell will have a little bit more success. My God, we all know the wear and tear on him isn't anything like it is on KJ. You have to look back at the previous 2 years, and you certainly give that offense credit for how effective it was, even if it was just by his feet. Even if it was just by him moving the ball with his feet. The point is he found ways to win games at times, not always. You lost a bunch of close games, but I don't put those all on KJ. That takes more than just one guy to lose some of those close games. And this year it is clearly, if you want to ask me, where the majority of the blame lies on the field, it's with the offensive line. So, again, it's strange to me that we can all agree with that, but then there's a struggle at quarterback, and your answer is, well, we need to swap out quarterbacks right now. I mean, you guys were saying this 4 weeks ago, and it wasn't going to happen. I told you then it's not going to happen. Now, from here on out, it's different. I really do wonder what's going on in that locker room with KJ, what's going on with Kenny Guyton and this offense, and where he and Sam are at with it. Like, what are they trying to do to better the situation? I don't know. But they've got 2 games to try and put a better product on the field. I think we can all agree, no matter what, the product on the offensive side of things has been abysmal, and it starts up front of the line of scrimmage. KJ's beaten every SEC West team except Bama and played them within 3 points this year with this terrible O-line. Ty, do you want to keep Pitt? Kopeski, you're just asking. I mean, listen, I don't know. The answer would be, I said a while back, the further south of 6, you can't keep him. The further south of 6. Now, I'm not Hunter Yurachek. I'm not on the board of trustees. I'm just a guy with a microphone that flaps his gums. And some of you can attest to that. We don't always agree, and we certainly disagree on the KJ stuff, but it's not up to me. If it were up to me, I would certainly take a look at the guy that just got interviewed by Texas A&M and Traylor. I would certainly at least take a look at Rhett Lashley at SMU. I'm not saying I would hire him, but I would certainly want to pull out his body of work and see what he's done as a coordinator and what he's done as a head coach at SMU. I mean, there's a number of guys. You guys, we've got all sorts of names on the Patreon page for possible coaches. Yeah, Mike, I appreciate the DM. I've figured out the ad stuff. But we have a whole roster of coaches. If you want my opinion, if he finds a way to beat Missouri, then yeah, okay, maybe you give him another year. I'm not saying that I would fully endorse it, but it's not my decision to make. If 3-9, you sure as shit don't deserve another year, and I would argue that 4-8, you don't deserve another year. That win at Florida did him a lot of favors, without a doubt. Tristan, what are you talking about? I never said he isn't the best. He's been your best option. Yes, he absolutely has been your best option. 110% he's been your best option. Look what happened when you tried other quarterbacks last year. Hornsby was like deer in headlights. Well, what are you talking about? I feel bad for Pittman. He's a good dude, but man, this was not the year we was expecting by the Hogs. What's up, man? How you doing, Freddie? I like Traylor, but why can Arkansas seem to look forward instead of backwards? What's wrong with looking? I don't know what you mean by that, Philip. Listen, there's a reason why A&M gave him an interview other than just proximity and how close he is to the university there or being within the state of Texas. He's a quality coach. Right now, Philip, you're in here enough. You've heard me talk about it. We have to understand there are certain optics that you have to look through. You've got to look at Arkansas as a program from the outside looking in, and it's not a super attractive job right now. Now, the good news is you do have money in Northwest Arkansas. I don't know what's going on with the NIL, but, they have done pretty well in the portal. I mean, they finished top 15 back-to-back years, I believe. They have attracted 5-star talent. They have attracted first 3-round talent. You look at Drew Sanders a year ago. Josh Braun this year is, I mean, I'm not saying he's a draft pick because he's not, but he's at times been okay, and then other times he's been pretty bad, but he did start this year, and he got an opportunity. There's something to be said about what you're able to do in the portal. Arkansas just hit the wrong notes, I think. I think they did okay in the portal considering the talent they brought in. And you look at the secondary over the last couple of years, they've done a good job of going out and getting the pieces they needed to turn the secondary around. And I think they've done a pretty good job at linebacker. I mean, you look at Thomas, that guy led the league in tackles for like 8 weeks, or 7 weeks, whatever it was. Landon Jackson, of course, he took a couple of years, but he got there. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was highly rated out of high school, and I've had media people tell me he's arguably one of the best high school defensive ends they've laid eyes on, and we're starting to see – we saw tidbits of that this year. It's been on the offensive side of things where they just didn't do a good job. The defense did a wonderful job. So maybe there's an attraction there, but the overall optics of this program – they're not great, and you're not going to be able to go out and just get whoever you want simply by throwing an empty or a blank check at them. It's not going to happen. They're going to look at, does this help my career or does it hinder my career? Do I end up on my ass in 3 or 4 years? Look at the last 4 coaches at Arkansas, and we have to accept that. Again, we love to make light of the who you gonna get crowd. I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things is the who you gonna get. I love doing that. But again, as I've repeated for weeks, they have a point to a degree. Now, you're gonna always have that crowd, and you're gonna always have that conversation, whether you're, 5 years out. Let's say Pittman survives another year. You're gonna have the same rhetoric. Well, who you gonna get after 5 years? That's what was said after Nutt got fired. Those were the call-in shows, man. I used to listen to them, okay? And I'm sure a lot of you did as well. I used to read the articles. I used to read the comments section. Twitter, of course, wasn't much of a thing then, but that was the rhetoric. It was who you going to get. And you wound up, however you did, you wound up with Bobby Petrino. He may have kind of fallen in your lap to a degree because of how badly he wanted out at Atlanta. Hell, who wouldn't want out badly at Atlanta? You wouldn't catch me within 50 miles or 150 miles of Atlanta. But you have to understand there are optics of this program. And there's someone – they're going to have to bring someone in who's willing to do the legwork. Again, the portal's going to help things out. They have done a good job, a decent job. If Musselman can do it, and I get basketball, it's apples and oranges, easier. I want to say easier fix. It's a little bit easier fix, but no, it's a lot easier fix really. But they've done a pretty decent job when they really want someone out of the portal. Now on the offensive line, they've whiffed. At wide receiver, they've whiffed, but then, they had to battle for Tesla, regardless of what we think of him now or how well, his on-the-field product. I'm sure he's a great kid. But, just his on-the-field product. At the time, Sanders wanted Tesla, and you beat Deion Sanders out, who was a hot commodity at that time at Colorado just being brought in. You beat out Sanders for him, right? I don't know how much want there was for Andrew Armstrong, but he's turned out to be he's been okay, at best. But, on the defensive side of the ball, they have shown, we can go out and we can get the necessary pieces to fix what's going on the defense. I don't know why you wouldn't think they couldn't do that on the offense. I'm, talking about like a new coach, a guy who's, that's the thing too, is if they do replace Pittman, it's got to be someone who's all in on the portal. It's got to be someone who is all in on the transfer portal, who understands that, I'm seeing teams take 15 players out of high school and the rest is going to be just moved in by the portal. So that's kind of, and I've been saying this now for a couple of years, that's where we're headed. That's where football's headed, and Arkansas is trailing. And now this year that's going to change. They're going to have, they're going to take 19 or 20 high school prospects and the rest is going to be filled in with portal players. So, Fortin did throw a tutty versus LSU last year. Cool. Good to see that you're happy to see players not succeed as long as it helps you win an argument, Michael. What'd Kopesky say? Yeah, I don't know about all that. I think Malachi is the most talented quarterback on the roster with the highest upside. I really want to see him play in an Arkansas uniform one day. Hope he doesn't transfer. I like him. I like Malachi. He had a typical freshman year. I mean, he was beat out. I mean, he was fourth on the list. He was fourth, I believe, on the roster, or fourth, at least in terms of like fastball rotation. You didn't get to see much of him. Yeah, I mean, he's got, we'll see. I don't know what to make of him yet. It's hard. It's hard, especially given all the things that have happened over the last couple of years. I don't know if he sticks it out here or not. Obviously, it's going to depend on what they do with the head coach and what they do with an OC. Crazy as bad as their defense was last year. Yeah, Tercer, but no, that defense last year was horrible. The defense last year was awful. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I heard LSU had flu last year when they played us. I don't know. There's all kinds of rhetoric. If you're going to fire Sam, Taylor Roberts says if they're going to fire Sam, shouldn't they do it before the portal opens? It's actually a good question. I think if they make any move, it would be early December. It'll be early December. Time a student at ODU. Oh, really? Should I tell Jenkins to transfer to Arkansas next year? Maybe you should, man. That's pretty funny. He looked, what did he do? He was their leading scorer. Right? He had 21 points. Yeah, he tore it up. 7 rebounds. I mean, he damn near had a double-double. 3 assists. Yeah, I hope Pittman – I think I said that in the postgame for that. I hope they keep tape on him. He looked really good, dude. And he's not necessarily he's 6'4", 175 pounds, I think is what they said. Jenkins is the Jim Moore wannabe. I don't know about all that. All right, now we're gonna polish this bad boy off right here. We're at 2 hours. It's been a long one. That's okay. This was the period of time, anyways. I was gonna stream it at 11, so we're ending at 11 o'clock. That works out perfect. Again, I agree that Criswell will probably get some time this weekend. I don't know it wouldn't shock me at all if he went out and played a whole, I don't know, depending on the score, I guess. It wouldn't shock me at all if he gets quite a bit of playing time tomorrow. It also wouldn't surprise me if they didn't play him hardly at all. I mean, I know that they want to get KJ's in their mind. They want to, I mean, they still feel like we have got to beat Missouri. They're going to be desperate to beat Missouri. Now Missouri's obviously they're already bowl eligible. Arkansas's not going bowling, so then there's that whole side of it. What are you playing for, right? And that's the other thing too. I don't think any of these players thought they'd be in this situation. So we'll see if they fully let go of the rope tomorrow. I'll tell you that much, and we'll see how KJ plays. I stand by KJ's giving Arkansas the best chance to win games. Some of you will just have to agree to disagree. I think the defense and the offensive line have been way bigger issues these last 2 years. There's also game plan, right? The game plan management, guys around you. This stuff matters. And if you're going to say that KJ is the majority of the problem, man, I don't know if you're watching these games. I think a lot of you are so fed up, you just want to place blame wherever. You're not really watching the games. You're not watching KJ run for his life or just take a high level of abuse. I'm not saying he played perfect. Again, I'm not saying he played perfect. He certainly has never looked himself this year. He's never looked comfortable with Dan Enos. There could be something to be said, too, about Kendall Briles just knew what buttons to push. And it helped put KJ in the best situation to win games. That could be it, but I certainly believe we've seen KJ more times than not put this team on his shoulders, mostly because of his feet and his legs, and find ways, to get first downs. But you know what? He's not played anywhere near that level this year. One time against Florida. I would love to see them get close to that, because if they do, if they play to that level, they could give Mizzou a pretty good game. They should beat FIU by 30 points if that were to happen. The problem is we just haven't seen it this year, not consistently. So it just is what it is. Again, we'll have to all agree to disagree. But yeah, so that's going to do it. I will be live tonight for the postgame show after they play UNC Greensboro. It'll be it's going to be a close game. I'm excited for it. This is definitely one that I've been the most interested in this year, at least up until, this is it, right? This is the last game. It's the last game. First off, it's the last game in Fayetteville until November 29th. So today's the 17th, and they'll return from the Bahamas to take on Duke. And then after that, you got to take on a pretty spicy Furman team, or at least they can be spicy. And UNC Greensboro, say what you want about Vanderbilt. Someone took a shot at Vandy about who they lost. Bro, who cares? Like, Greensboro is, and I'm not the only one saying this, this could be a tournament caliber team that you're about to play tonight. But we also know if Arkansas plays anywhere near their ceiling, they probably will beat the crap out of these guys no matter what. So, but it should be interesting nonetheless. I'm excited for it, and tonight's post game ought to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, this has been one of the longest live streams I've done in a while, but we had a lot to talk about, a lot to kind of digest and get through. So I will see you guys tonight. Who you going to get? That's right, Tercer. Who you going to get? That's right. Who you going to get? We'll be live tonight. You guys have a good day. And, yeah, all right. That's it. That's all she wrote.